I'm Val Spears, and I'm bringing another creative idea for one of my patterns. This one's a pattern hack, and it's for the everyday shirt that I sell on Etsy. When I was playing with the shirt, this is the straight shirt pattern. You can make it with contrasting cuffs and a collar, and it's just got the ordinary back and front. This one has two-piece sleeves, so you can get the cuff opening at the back of the hand rather than underneath in the side seam. So this is just a little, I suppose, a little fashion extra, but it also means that you don't see the opening for the cuff when it's on the doll. So this is my everyday shirt pattern, and what I've done is I wanted to make a a yoke, a back yoke. So I have cut my pattern pieces to make the back into a lower back and a back yoke. So here we have the pieces ready to do the pattern hack. You need 2 backs for your shirt pattern, and we're going to make a yoke out of one piece and the lower back out of the other piece. So to start with, we take one piece and we're going to work out where the yoke is going to be attached. And to do that, I just do by eye, halfway down the armhole. So about there. And I'm going to make this my seam line for the yoke. Make it as horizontal as possible. I'm going to dash it in red because it's my seam line. And we need to change the cutting line to 1/4 inch below the seam line. I do that in pencil so I know it's a cutting line. And I'm going to extend it across because I'm going to cut out a whole back with my yoke piece. So all we need to do now is cut across here, and then we're going to fold it in half. So I cut my back yoke off the rest of the pattern. Going to fold it on this line, on the centre back line. It just fits on my page, and then I'm going to cut out the piece. So now I have a complete back, because what I need to do is cut out 2 yokes so that I get a neat finish along the yoke seam line. And I can just extend the seam allowance lines. I like to sort of have them more as a visual aid, I suppose, just so I know that my seam allowances are all included in my pattern piece when I come to cut it out. And we need to just add some labelling. So this one is the back yoke. It's 1837, so we don't have to rewrite that. And it's hack A. and we cut 2. So now we've finished that piece. Now we're ready to take a second piece and do the lower back. And to do that we need to use the same seam line. So we're going to just place this on top and mark in where our seam line goes. Going to extend it out past the centre back because we're going to add extra for the pleat. So there's our new seam line, and the cutting line will be 1/4 inch above that. So I'll draw that one in too. I'll do that in pencil so that I don't get mixed up with cutting lines and seam lines. And to do the pleat, we're going to add 3/4 inch to the centre back. So that gives us where we put the fold for the centre, for the back with the pleat. Just tidy it up a bit, put across my new cutting line at the bottom and add in the seam allowance. Okay, so we need to scrub out this layer because we don't want this anymore. And we're going to add it on to our new cutting line. And you need to cut this on the fold. We don't have the number written on here, so I need to write 1837, and it's lower back. Pattern hack A, and we cut 1. All right, so now I'm going to cut this out, and here we have our hacked pieces. We've got the back yoke, we need to cut 2, and we've got the new lower back that has room for the pleat, and we cut 1 of those. So it's quick and easy to do yourself, but I know not everybody has the time or the inclination to, chop up their pattern pieces and make things themselves. So I'm going to offer the pattern hack pieces in my shop. This is just the first of the pattern hacks for the shirt. So it has a back yoke and it also has a pleat down the centre back, so I've extended the centre back. And this is how it looks. So I've added the little hanging loop, and I've cut my back on the bias, my back yoke, and I've added the pleat in the centre back. Another difference I made with this one, just to make it a bit easier, I have left out the seam in the back of the sleeve, and I've just put the cuff opening into the side seam. So this one opens where the side seam is. So it's just 1 step less, so you don't have to make a 2-piece sleeve. And that's easy to do too. So all I did was pin together my 2 sleeve pieces, and you just make sure the seam line on each piece matches up, and then you just pin it together and use it as a 1-piece sleeve. So on my blog I have written instructions for how to sew it all together. So the instructions cover what to do with the yoke and the back pleat and the little hanging loop, and also there's a second part which is how to put together your 1-piece sleeve. It has a couple of little pleats and things in it. So that's all on my blog at valspearssewsdolldesigns.blogspot.com. If you want some help sewing it up for yourself, if you want to wait a little while, I've only finished part 1 and part 2 of my shirt hacks. So once I've done part 3, then I'll put it all into the shop, and you'll have to buy, or you'll have to have a shirt pattern. So the collar and sleeves and pockets and things like that. And the pattern hacks will be extras. So you need a shirt pattern, and if you want to do the different kinds of hacks, you need the hack pack. I've called it a hack pack. So this is another one I did with stripes. So I've done the stripes across the yoke, and I put in the little loop and done the little pleat. So then the next one I'm going to do will have a yoke in the front, and that's this one. So this one's got the yoke in the front, and it's got a button band. So that's what's coming up in the second part. But I just wanted to mention about something which has come up while I've been doing the pattern hacks, and that's the turn of cloth. So each time you cut a seam in your pattern piece, you need to adjust the fit slightly, because I've added a seam in here and it has taken a little bit away from the ease in the shirt, because I've had to turn the fabric. And this one doesn't have two, but this one I did with two. It has two yokes, so it's got one on the inside and one on the outside, so that the seams are all covered up. So I've increased the thickness of the fabric as well. Now it doesn't matter, it didn't seem to matter too much for this shirt. This was my first iteration, I suppose, of the pattern hack, and the collar seems to have fitted quite nicely. I did have to stretch it just a little bit more on the neck, and I thought, what's going on here? And but it still fitted quite neatly. The next hack that I did, I actually put in extra pleats. So now we've got pleats, 2 pleats in the back, we've got double fabric for the back yoke, and we've got double fabric for the front yoke, and I've got seams that I put in for the button band. So all these extra folds in the fabric have made my neckline much smaller, noticeably smaller. And I thought, what's going on? And I realized that it's all because of the turn of cloth. So this is what happened to my collar in the second iteration of my pattern hack, because I didn't take into account that I was adding more thickness of fabric, 2 extra seams with the button bands, and extra seams with the back, and it just couldn't stretch the neckline to make it fit the collar anymore. So I had to make adjustments. I've increased everything a little bit on the neckline so that the original collar still fits neatly. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for me, that it's nearly 1/4 inch. So I've got 2 extra seams and an extra double layer of fabric, and it made it almost impossible for me to sew the collar on. So if you want to do some pattern hacks for yourself and you're adding extra seams, making cuts in the pattern pieces to add extra seams, you just have to remember that it might not fit unless you extend by the thickness of a line is probably enough, because when you fold your fabric, when you fold the fabric, it has a thickness. So there's probably 1/2 millimeter width in the actual fold of the fabric. So you have to take account of that each time you cut a piece to make a seam in when you're doing pattern hacks. So that's today's little story about what I've been creating. So that's the first stage in my series of 3 pattern hacks for my everyday shirt. We've got the back pleat and the back yoke and the little hanging hook. So if you want to go and see how to do that yourself and how to sew it, you can look up my blog. So until next time, happy doll dressmaking.